The line in the stars. The galaxy was full of empires, each claiming stars, planets, and power. But one empire stood apart, strange and new, the humans of Earth. They had risen fast, too fast, in only a few centuries. Other empires had ruled for thousands of years, yet humans had caught up. What made the galaxy uneasy was not only human progress, but also their warning. A message was carved into the void with satellites, stations, and patrol fleets. A single sentence translated into every known alien tongue. This far, no further. That was the line in the stars. No empire was to cross into human space without permission. It was not a suggestion. It was a promise. For years, the galaxy laughed. Humans were seen as bold but foolish, a young race pretending to be mighty. The older empires mocked them, calling the line a child's drawing across the cosmos. Many believed. The humans had no real strength to defend it, but none dared to test it until now. The Zorith Empire was vast, with thousands of warships and billions under its rule. They were proud, arrogant, and greedy. Their high command looked at the human warning and scoffed. To them, it was nothing more than empty bravado. Admiral Corval, commander of the Zorith Frontier Fleet, stood tall in his warship as the line approached on their scanners. Hundreds of ships followed him. His officers watched the glowing border markers ahead beacons, left by humans, to show where their claim began. Corval smiled. His voice was deep and mocking as he addressed his fleet. Look at them. These humans think they can stop us with words and lights in the dark. Today, we will show them the truth. No young race commands the Zorith Empire. His bridge crew chuckled. Some looked uneasy, but none dared to speak against him. Orders were orders. Fleet slowed as they reached the invisible wall, the border humanity had sworn to defend. The beacons pulsed, broadcasting the warning again. This far, no further. There was silence on the bridge. For a moment, it felt as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Then Admiral Corval gave the order. Cross it. Engines roared. One by one, the Zorith ships pushed forward, their shadows cutting across the border of light. The line was broken down at first. Nothing happened. The fleet moved freely into human space. The officers laughed nervously. Some cheered. See, Corval said with pride. The humans bark, but they cannot bite. But not everyone in his fleet shared his confidence. Lieutenant Vena, a younger officer, kept her eyes on the sensors. Something was wrong. Too quiet. Too still. The border zone was supposed to be empty, yet her readings showed faint echoes. Faint shadows. Admiral, she said carefully. I detect. Movement. Small signatures. Fast ones. Corval waved her off. Stray signals. Tricks of their sensors. Do not be afraid of ghosts, Lieutenant. Yet the echoes multiplied. Small, sleek shapes appeared on the edges of their scanners. They moved like hunters in the dark, circling the Zorith ships, but never coming close. The crew grew uneasy. Whispers spread across the decks. Are they here? Are those human ships? Why don't they attack? Because humanity was watching. Far away, on the other side of the border, Captain Elena Ward stood aboard the human flagship Resolute. Her crew tracked every Zorith vessel, mapping their formation. They waited, silent and patient. Elena's eyes were cold as she studied the enemy fleet. She remembered the words of Earth's leaders when the line was drawn. We do not seek war. But if war comes to us, we will end it swiftly. Now, war had come. She did not give the order to fire. Not yet. Instead, she let them go deeper. Let them grow arrogant. Let them believe they were safe. The humans wanted the Zorith to cross fully, to commit themselves. Only then would the lesson be complete. Back on the Zorith flagship, Lieutenant Vena whispered to herself, too soft for anyone else to hear. They're out there, watching us. The Admiral ignored the tension. His pride was too strong. He raised a glass in mock salute to the stars. Here we are, humans. We have crossed. Your line. What will you do now? Hide? Beg? Surrender? The answer did not come in words. It came in silence. A silence heavier than any voice. The Zorith had crossed the line, and humanity was waiting. Asterisk. The silent watchers, the Zorith fleet, drifted deeper into human space, engines burning bright against the black. To them, it felt like victory already. No human fleet had appeared. No shots had been fired. The galaxy would soon hear of this insult, and the Zorith Empire would boast that the line of Earth was nothing but smoke and light, but unseen eyes followed their every move. High above the border, cloaked in the shadows of a dead moon, lay the human warship Resolute. Its hull was blackened with stealth plating, its engines whisper silent, hidden from scanners. Dozens of other human vessels formed a silent net around the intruders. They did not move. They did not speak. They simply watched. On the Resolute's bridge, Captain Elena Ward stood tall, her arms folded behind her back. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with cold fire. Around her, officers whispered updates. Enemy ships crossing Sector 9. 73 vessels confirmed. Additional reinforcements following. Their formation is tight, but they're overconfident. They don't even know we're here, Captain. Elena gave no smile, no hint of satisfaction. She had been chosen to guard this border for a reason. She was not only a soldier, she was the embodiment of the warning. To her, the line was sacred, and today it had been broken. Do not engage, she said softly. Not yet. Let them come closer. Her crew obeyed without hesitation. They, too, knew the plan. Humanity had learned long ago that the most powerful strike was the one that came when the enemy felt safest. Meanwhile, on the Zorith flagship, Admiral Corval walked the deck with a proud swagger. His officers were relaxed now, their fear fading as the minutes passed with no sign of human resistance. Pathetic, Corval declared, his voice echoing across the bridge. They draw lines in the stars, but hide like frightened children. This is the might of Earth? Empty threats and empty space? The crew laughed, though some did so nervously. Only Lieutenant Vena, standing at her console, kept her eyes sharp on the scanners. Shadows still flickered at the edge of her screen fast. Fleeting, almost unreal, she leaned toward another officer and whispered, "Don't you see them? They're here, watching us." The officer frowned, shook his head, and muttered, "Ghosts, tricks," but Vena felt no comfort. Something in her bones told her the humans were not hiding out of fear. They were waiting. Hours passed. The Zorith fleet pressed further into forbidden space. They scanned for colonies, outposts, anything worth claiming. All seemed quiet. Too quiet. At last, they found one. A human mining station clinging to the surface of a barren asteroid. Its lights blinked faintly in the dark. Only a few transport ships circled it. Admiral Corval smiled cruelly. There, proof that humans cannot defend all they claim. Take it. The order spread like wildfire. Cruisers adjusted course. Troop carriers readied for boarding. The Zorith ships moved in, claws reaching for the helpless outpost. But in the silence of space, the trap was closing. On the Resolute, alarms whispered softly. The mining station was not bait by accident. It was bait by design. Elena Ward's voice was calm, but edged with steel. They've taken the lure. Signal the net. Prepare for silent strike. Her officers nodded. Across the void, human ships shifted. Still cloaked, still unseen, but moving into position. Like wolves circling prey, one young ensign glanced at Elena and whispered, Captain. They don't know we're here. Should we reveal ourselves now? Elena shook her head. Her eyes never left the glowing dots of the enemy fleet. Not yet. The longer they believe they're safe, the harder they will fall. Let them step fully into the abyss. Back on the Zorith flagship, Lieutenant Vena felt her heart race. The mining station looked too calm, too exposed. The humans weren't fools. They would never leave such a prize UNDEFENDED. She turned to the Admiral, her voice urgent. Sir, it's a trap. The humans are silence. Corval thundered, slamming his clawed hand against the console. Do you think humans have the courage to face us? No. They hide. They beg. They build walls and pray we do not cross them. This station is unguarded. It is ours. But in the far distance, the Resolute watched. And so did dozens of other human ships, their weapons humming quietly, waiting for the single word that would unleash them. Captain Elena lowered her voice to almost a whisper, but every officer heard her clearly. They crossed the line. Now. They belong to us. The stars seemed to hold their breath. The trap was set. The watchers were ready. Asterisk. The first clash the Zorith ships closed in on the lonely mining station. Its lights flickered weakly, as if pleading for mercy. A few small freighters circled, but no warships stood guard. To the Empire, it looked like easy prey. Admiral Corval's voice boomed across the command deck. Target the station. Disable power. Send boarding teams. We'll take their workers as slaves and strip the rock for ourselves. Cheers erupted from his officers. Cruisers angled their weapons. Troop carriers prepared to launch. The Zorith fleet moved in, certain of victory. But deep in the shadows, humanity waited. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elena Ward stood perfectly still, her eyes locked on the glowing markers that represented the enemy fleet. Her crew was tense, hands hovering over controls. Every heartbeat felt like thunder in their ears. At last, Elena spoke. Her voice was calm, but sharp as steel. Phase 1, begin. From the darkness, the first strike came. A Zorith cruiser approaching. The mining station suddenly exploded. No warning. No visible attacker. One moment it was there, the next it was a cloud of fire and debris. The Zorith officers froze in shock. Panic spread through their ships. Where did it come from? Who fired? Was it an accident? Before they could answer, 3 more cruisers vanished in fire. Missiles cut silently through space, guided by precision unseen before. Railgun slugs, moving faster than thought, tore through hulls. Ships that had ruled the stars for centuries died in seconds. The Zorith fleet was under attack, but they could not see the enemy. Lieutenant Vena gripped her console, eyes wide with terror. They're here, she whispered. I told you. The humans are here. Admiral Corval's pride shattered into rage. He bared his fangs and shouted, find them and destroy them. But it was useless. The humans did not fight. Like the Zorith, they did not announce themselves with massive fleets or glowing cannons. They struck from the shadows, silent and merciless. On the Resolute, Elena watched coldly as her ships moved in perfect coordination. Stealth frigates glided between the enemy, launching precise strikes. Gunships appeared for only seconds, firing devastating volleys before vanishing again into the dark. They think they are hunters, Elena murmured. But they crossed into our territory. Here, they are prey. The mining station, the bait in the trap, suddenly came alive. Its lights flared. Hidden beneath its surface, turrets unfolded and locked onto the invaders. The helpless outpost was no outpost at all. It was a fortress in disguise. Energy beams lanced out, ripping through Zorith carriers. Fighters hidden within the asteroid. Launched, swarming the enemy like hornets. The Zorith fleet collapsed into chaos. Officers screamed orders. Ships collided in panic. Some tried to flee, only to be cut down by unseen human weapons. One Zorith captain cried out over open channels, his voice breaking with fear. "They fight like demons. We cannot even see them. Pull back, pull back." But there was no pulling back. Humanity had already closed the net dot in less than 10 minutes. Nearly a third of the Zorith fleet was gone. Fire and wreckage drifted across the void. Survivors scrambled to regroup, their once proud formation torn apart. On the flagship, Lieutenant Vena turned to Admiral Corval, her voice trembling. "Admiral, we must retreat. We are outmatched." Corval's eyes burned with fury. His pride would not allow retreat. "No, we are the Zorith Empire. We do not run from a young race. Rally the fleet." But even as he shouted, another explosion rocked the bridge. His officers were thrown to the floor. The lights flickered. Panic spread dot, and then at last, the humans revealed themselves. Dozens of ships uncloaked, surrounding the Zorith from every angle. Sleek, dark vessels with weapons glowing faintly. They had been there all along, silent shadows now turned into executioners. On the Resolute's bridge, Elena finally gave the order her crew had been waiting for. "All ships, full assault. Leave none to escape." The void erupted in fire. Human destroyers fired railguns that tore through shields like paper. Stealth bombers released payloads that split battleships apart. Carriers launched drones that swarmed and dismantled enemy vessels piece by piece. The Zorith screamed, fought, and died. Vena could only stare at the chaos outside the viewport. Her people's proud fleet was being slaughtered. She whispered in horror, "This is not war. This is extermination." Admiral Corval roared in defiance, but his voice was drowned by another explosion. His flagship shook violently. He clutched the command rail, his pride cracking at last. For the first time in his life, fear took root in his heart. And far away, across the human fleet, Captain Elena Ward watched without mercy. "They crossed the line," she said coldly. "Now they pay the price." The battle raged on, but the outcome was already written. The Zorith had thought humanity weak. Instead, they had awakened the wolves. Asterisk, the wrath of Earth. The ruins of the Zorith fleet drifted in silence. Broken hulls spun slowly in the void, their fire fading into cold ash. What had begun as a proud march into human space ended in slaughter. But for humanity, this was only the beginning. News of the ambush spread quickly. Survivors carried desperate messages back to their empire. Voices shook as they described the battleships vanishing in seconds. Invisible hunters tearing apart cruisers. Weapons no Zorith had ever seen before. The Empire's leaders listened, but instead of caution, pride ruled their hearts. They refused to believe a young race could defeat them so easily. "Lies," the Emperor declared in his golden throne hall. "Our fleet was careless. We will send more. We will show these humans their place." And so they did. Wave after wave of Zorith ships crossed the line, determined to crush Earth's defenders. But each time, the result was the same. Human fleets waited, hidden and patient. Ambushes shattered enemy formations. Colonies that looked undefended became traps filled with hidden guns. The Zorith were bled with every incursion. Soon, the galaxy whispered. Old empires that once mocked the line now spoke of it with fear. They remembered the message carved into the stars. This far, no further. And yet, the Zorith kept pushing. They burned with anger and pride, unable to retreat. They wanted to erase the shame of their losses. But humanity no longer fought just to defend. They were done waiting. Captain Elena Ward stood before her crew on the Resolute. Her face was calm, but her voice carried iron. They have crossed again and again. They believe their pride will save them. It will not. Earth will. No longer sit behind the line. Now we go to them. Her words spread through the fleet. Orders were sent. Engines roared. For the first time, human ships crossed into Zorith territory, and with them came wrath. The first strike fell on a Zorith supply world. It was a planet of factories, mines, and workers, untouched by war for centuries. They never expected attack, so deep inside their space. But one night, the skies split apart. Human warships descended in silence, their weapons burning through orbital defenses in minutes. Factories exploded. Dockyards were turned to fire. The survivors looked to the heavens and saw the banner of Earth's fleet burning above them. Panic spread across the Empire. Worlds that once felt safe now lived in terror. The Zorith sent armadas to defend their core sectors, but humanity's fleets struck like lightning. They did not move in predictable lines. They appeared, unleashed devastation, then vanished into the dark. To the Empire, it felt as if ghosts were tearing their kingdom apart, piece by piece. On the Emperor's war council, fear finally crept into the voices of his advisors. "They are not like other races," one whispered. "They do not conquer for glory. They strike to teach a lesson, and the lesson is death." But the Emperor slammed his claw against his throne. "We are the Zorith. We do not bow to upstarts. Summon every fleet, every ship. Crush them." His pride blinded him, and so the Zorith gathered the largest fleet in their history. Thousands of ships, drawn from every corner of their empire, formed a colossal wall of steel and fire. They believed sheer numbers would smother the human threat. But humanity had prepared for this moment. Captain Elena stood at the heart of the command bridge as the colossal Zorith fleet appeared on sensors. Her officers looked to her, fear flickering in their eyes. Never had they faced so many at once. Elena did not flinch. Her voice was steady. "Numbers do not win wars. Precision does. Discipline does. Will does. And we have all three. Today, the Zorith learned why the line was drawn. The order was given. The largest battle in the history of both races began. Railguns thundered across the void. Missiles carved fire through the dark. Human stealth craft darted in and out, carving holes in the enemy wall. The Zorith roared back, with raw firepower, filling space with plasma storms and energy beams. For hours, the stars burned. And then the turning point came. Human ships revealed their newest weapon, kinetic lances, rods of pure tungsten launched at near-light speed. They struck like meteors, piercing shields, tearing through capital ships, shattering the heart of the Zorith fleet. Explosions lit the void like dying suns. The Zorith wall cracked, then broke, then collapsed entirely. Ships fled in every direction. But the humans gave no mercy. They chased them down, one by one, until the great fleet was no more. When the fire finally died, silence returned. Only human ships remained, drifting victorious over the wreckage of 1,000 enemies. Captain Elena stared at the ruined battlefield. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but every crew member heard her. They would not listen. So we spoke in fire. Far away, in his golden hall, the Emperor of the Zorith listened to reports of defeat after defeat. His claws trembled. For the first time, his voice cracked with fear. "What have we done?" He whispered. The answer came from the void itself. Had crossed the line, and Earth's wrath had answered. The price paid. The Zorith Empire was broken. Their proud fleets, once called invincible, were now drifting wrecks across half the galaxy. Worlds once shining with banners of conquest now burned in silence, their skies scarred by human fire. But humanity did not take planets. They did not enslave or plunder. They struck, destroyed, and vanished. The galaxy began to realize the truth. Earth did not fight for conquest. They fought for warning. The Emperor of the Zorth sat alone in his throne hall. His golden crown weighed heavy on his head. Once he had roared with pride, certain that no young race could challenge his empire. Now he whispered to himself in broken words, "We crossed their line, and they shattered us." The silence of his palace was broken by trembling voices of his surviving generals. "Our fleets are gone, my emperor. Our borders fall one by one. We cannot hold. Humanity is not like the others." They do not stop. The emperor closed his eyes. He remembered the first warning, those glowing beacons at the edge of human space, this far, no further. He had laughed then. Now those words echoed like a curse, and then came the shadow. From the depths of space, a fleet arrived above the Zorth capital. Sleek, dark ships blotted out the stars. At their heart was the human flagship Resolute, its guns silent but ready, its presence heavier than any weapon. Panic spread through the city below. Sirens wailed. Citizens rushed into shelters. The skies filled with dread. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Elena Ward stood tall, her face unreadable. She had no joy in this moment, no pride in victory. She carried only the weight of duty. A channel opened. The Emperor appeared on her screen, his robes torn, his voice trembling. "Human. Captain, what do you want of us? Gold? Worlds? Slaves? Elena's." Eyes hardened. Her reply was sharp as a blade. "We want none of those. We want only this. You will never cross our line again." The Emperor bowed his head, shame heavy in his voice. "And if we refuse?" Elena did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "Then your empire ends tonight." Silence fell between them. The Emperor looked into her eyes and saw no bluff, no weakness. Only truth. Only fired out at last. He broke. His voice cracked as he spoke. "We surrender." The words spread like shockwaves through the Zorth court. Generals fell silent. Advisors wept. The empire they had ruled for millennia had bowed to a race they once mocked as children. But humanity was not done. Elena's message was broadcast not just to the Zorth, but to the galaxy. Her voice carried across every channel, translated into every language. "You have all seen what happens when the line is crossed. We did not seek this war. But when it came, we answered. Let this be the last time any empire doubts Earth's word. The line in the stars remains. Cross it again, and there will be nothing left of you." The galaxy listened in silence. No empire dared to laugh now. The young race had shown its teeth, and those teeth were sharper than any in the stars. The Zorth capital, the Emperor removed his crown. He held it in shaking hands, whispering to himself, "We should never have crossed them. We should have listened." And across Earth, humanity stood united. They had not only defended their space, they had carved their warning deeper into the cosmos. The line was no longer just a border. It was a legend. Years later, storytellers across alien worlds would speak in hushed voices. Once the Zorth crossed the line. Once they defied Earth. And in that moment, they learned what the galaxy must never forget. The story always ended the same way. Humanity does not bluff. Asterisk, the shadows of the future. The war was over, but the stars were not silent. The Zorth Empire bent its knee, forced into surrender. Its fleets were gone, its pride broken, and its people haunted by the memory of fire raining from the void. Humanity had not claimed their worlds, nor enslaved their people. They had taken something far worse, their certainty, their arrogance, their belief in supremacy. And across the galaxy, others were watching. On distant homeworlds, councils gathered. Ancient species that once mocked Earth now sat in quiet fear. The words of Captain Elena Ward echoed in every chamber. the line remains. Cross it again, and there will be nothing left of you. Some races trembled, others plotted. Not all were convinced that humanity's fury would remain contained in the hidden halls of the Car Dominion. Shadowed figures whispered, "If Earth can destroy the Zorith, what stops them from destroying us next?" In the archives of the Sarati scholars, a warning was carved in crystal. Do not test the humans. They are fire wrapped in flesh. But in the silence between stars, unknown. Eyes watched Earth with curiosity, not fear. On a barren world at the edge of the galaxy, a council of ancient beings stirred. They were older than the Zorith, older than the empires that ruled the spiral arms. Their voices were deep and cold. "The young race draws lines in the dark," one said. "They burn those who cross," another replied. "But fire that burns too brightly consumes itself in time." Their leaders' eyes glowed with strange light. Let them enjoy their triumph. Let the galaxy tremble. But mark my words, Earth has revealed its power. And now the true predators will take interest. Back on Earth, Captain Elena Ward returned to her homeworld for the first time in years. Crowds cheered her name, but her face remained grave. She had seen too much fire, too much ruin, to take joy in victory. In a quiet moment, she stood at the edge of the ocean, staring at the horizon. She thought of the Zorith Emperor, broken and afraid. She thought of the billions who had watched her warning. And she thought of the future. Her second-in-command approached softly. "Captain, the Council wishes to know what comes next. Will we expand? Will we claim what the Zorith left behind?" Elena shook her head slowly. "No, we do not need more stars. What we need is memory. They must never forget what happens when the line is crossed." But deep inside, she knew something else. Humanity had revealed its strength too soon. The galaxy had seen their fangs, their claws, their fire. And not all who watched would stay away. Some would come closer. Some would test again. And perhaps someday, something even greater than the Zorith would cross the line. Elena closed her eyes as the waves crashed at her feet. "When that day comes," she whispered, "we will be ready." The camera of history pulled back. From Earth to the solar system, to the stars beyond. The line still glowed, marked by beacons and fleets stretching across the dark like a scar. Of light. To some, it was a warning. To others, a challenge. And to humanity, it was a promise. The galaxy thought the war was over, but for Earth, it had only just begun. Asterisk. The next test piece returned, but it was a fragile piece. The Zorith Empire lived, broken and humbled, forced to kneel under the weight of their shame. They rebuilt their fleets slowly, but never again did they look toward the line in the stars. Their people whispered Earth's name as both a curse and a prayer. But while the Zorith licked their wounds, the rest of the galaxy grew restless. The Council of 12, a gathering of the most ancient powers, met in secret chambers carved inside. A hollow moon. They spoke in voices that shook the air itself. "The humans are too dangerous," one hissed. "They burn anyone who crosses them," another said. "They are young," a third whispered. "Too young to hold such fire. If left unchecked, they will one day claim the galaxy itself." But an elder voice silenced the others. It was the voice of the Council's prime speaker, a being older than Earth's sun. "Then we will test them, for fire must be tested, or it spreads uncontrolled." Across the void, far from human space, a fleet stirred. Not Zorith, not any empire known to Earth. Their ships were vast and silent, black as the void, with engines. That made no sound. They did not come to conquer worlds. They came for one reason only, to test the humans. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Elena Ward was restless. Though hailed as a hero, she felt no peace. Each night she dreamed of fire across the stars, of enemies unseen, of voices whispering in languages older than humanity itself. One evening, as she studied the latest deep space scans, her com-officer rushed in, face pale. "Captain, we've picked up something." Elena looked up sharply. "What kind of something?" The officer swallowed hard. "Ships, not Zorith, not anyone we know. They're on the very edge of the line. Just waiting, watching." For a long moment, silence filled the room. The memory of the Zorith War still hung heavy, and now something new had appeared, something unknown. Elena's voice was steady, but her crew heard the weight behind it. "Alert the fleet. Tell the Council. Humanity's next test has arrived." Far away, the Black Fleet hovered at the edge of human space. Their commander, a figure cloaked in shadow, spoke in a voice that carried through the void. They drew a line in the stars. The Zorith crossed it, and they fell. "Let us see if Earth can face something greater. Let us see if their fire still burns." And with that, the silent fleet began to move. Across Earth, alarms blared. The line, once thought secure, now pulsed red with warnings. Human ships scrambled, fleets raced to intercept. Soldiers prepared for war once again. But this time, fear whispered in the air. The Zorith had been arrogant, predictable. These newcomers were something else, something far older, far colder. On the Resolute, Elena stood before her crew, her face set like stone. Once, they said we were too young. Once, they mocked us. Once, they thought we would break. But we did not. We will not. If they want to test us again, then we will remind them. Her eyes burned with quiet fury. Humanity does not bluff. Humanity does not bow. If they cross our line, then let the stars bear witness. The crew shouted as one. To Earth! To the line! And so, the stage was set. The galaxy held its breath once again, waiting to see what would happen when the silent fleet met the fire of Earth. The first war had been a warning. The next would decide if humanity's legend was only the beginning, or the spark of something greater. Because in the end, one truth remained. The line in the stars still burned, and someone had just stepped toward it. Asterisk.